property value and property price. Are they the same thing? How do property investors value an investment property? And what has Ed Sheeran got to do with all of this? Stay tuned to find out. Hi, my name's Ranjan Bhattacharya. I've been investing in property for 30 years. You may have seen me on the hit Sky TV show Property Elevator or attended one of our Central London property networking events. So this video is really prompted by this comment I got on one of my YouTube videos, which says, can you explain to me what the difference between value of an asset and the price of an asset is? Because in real estate, the value means price. You can't measure it differently, mate. Well, in this video, I'm going to explain why they are completely different and why understanding the distinction between them is so important. Now, let's start with the basics, really. What is value? When we talk about property value, what is value? Here's a definition that I like to go by. Value is the estimated amount for which a property should exchange on the valuation date between a willing buyer and a willing seller in an arm's length transaction after proper marketing, where the parties have each acted knowledgeably, prudently, and without compulsion. Now, every one of those words in that definition has specific meaning and relevance to the whole phrase of determining fair market value or open market value. Now, if some of those circumstances are different, then of course there is the potential to pay a different price for that property. We all know this happens all the time with a multitude of different things. For example, if you sell a car, you may ring up the likes of WeBuyAnyCar.com. You know you're not going to get exact market value for the property, but what you will benefit from is the immediacy of a no-hassle sale at a price which is slightly below market value, but you've got that no-hassle certainty of a sale. Now, in property, of course, the price that you pay can be different from value. It can be higher than the market value of a property. The singer Ed Sheeran has been going on an above market value property shopping spree in his hometown. Basically, he has a little farm building and he's been buying up the neighbours' plots so that basically they can't complain about him doing whatever he does on his piece of land. Now, because he particularly wants it, he's been paying prices for these properties which are above market value. Now, of course, property investors are not looking to pay market value or above market value for any property. Property investors are looking at buying property at below market value. But in order to figure out what below market value is, you must first figure out what market value is. So with residential property, the way we figure out market value is to look at comparables. Now, when you're looking at comparables, don't make the standard rookie mistake of looking at what properties are selling for. Because remember, asking price and advertised price is completely different from to what the properties actually sell for. If you're liking this video, make sure you like and leave your comment as well, and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you're notified as soon as we upload a new video. So where do we get sold prices from? Well, if we go on to Rightmove and select sold house prices, you get a little search page. Now, it's only relevant to look at properties in the immediate vicinity. I wouldn't go outside of the postcode that you're looking at. So if I just type in the postcode of our office into Rightmove, the other thing that you should bear in mind is you should look specifically at the types of property that you're looking to compare. So if I'm looking to compare detached houses or semis or flats, those are the properties that I should look at. So I'm going to select my property type as being flat. Now, it is not relevant to consider comparables that are too old. So I wouldn't go beyond a couple of years as a way of comparison. And obviously keep it this area. You can do a wide radius if you want to, but comparables are only going to be relevant if they're in the specific area to where you're looking. We'll get back to the video in just a moment, but what I wanted to really tell you about was what is the most exciting opportunity in property right now, and that is repurposing defunct commercial buildings to residential use. Now, most people don't really know where to start, what to look for, and how to exploit these opportunities, and that's why I've prepared 90 minutes of free training for you to get you started on this wonderful journey. You can register for this free training at property-workshop.com. Join me on that free training, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of the video. Now, when you're assessing market comparables, if you're in areas where property types are relatively homogeneous, then it's relatively easy. What I mean by that is if you're in a town where within a certain postcode, everything are 3-bedroom terraces, they're just rows and rows of 3-bedroom terraces street after street, then it's very easy to find properties that have been sold in that area in the last couple of years, which are the same and roughly comparable. Now, of course, they'll all go for within a range. So one that's a little bit shabby will go for a lower end of that spectrum. One which is done up and relatively nice, or perhaps has been extended, will go for an upper end of the range. Now, the area that I've picked, AL1 in St Albans, is a little bit harder to ascertain those sort of comparables. The reason being is that there's no particular sort of one house type that there's a lot of. So you have to go a little bit deeper in order to get comparables of stuff that's sold. So I've looked at flats here, for example, and we're within one postcode, and we can see that this little flat here has sold in February 2021. And if we look at the data, we can see that the data is actually from Land Registry, and that's good. So this is not, this is not the asking price or anything like that. This is after everything was said and done, what the person actually paid as registered on Land Registry. So £360,000 was paid for this one, which is we can see on here is a 2-bedroom flat. And a 1-bedroom flat here, it sold in January, just 1 month before, for £225,000. So what's going on there? Obviously, you get an extra bedroom, but what justifies that extra price? So what I like to do is whip over to the floor plan, and I can see that over here you can see that that's 710 square meters. So the property is sold for £360,000. If I divide that by the floor area, which is 710, I've got a price per square foot of £507 per square foot. So that's what that sold for. So if I go back to the other one, which is also in the same postcode, which sold 1 month before, and I whiz over to the floor plan, I can see that one sold for £225, and that's on a price of that's 481 square foot. So let's just work out that one, 220, because in real estate, price per square foot is very, very important. And if you really want to do it in new money, you can do it in square meters, but the industry still seems to do it in price per square foot. So the price per square foot of this little flat, it works out to be £457 per square foot. Now that's quite a bit of a difference there, isn't it? It's about £50 a square foot difference. So this flat, on the face of it, is better value per square foot than the other one. Then you have to look at the specifics of the location and whether those came into play. Now, as a rough rule of thumb, when you're looking at property within a given postcode, what you're looking to do is get the most square foot for your money, the most square foot of space that you can buy, because you can usually reconfigure that and optimize the layout to make it rent better. So you can use Rightmove and a whole bunch of other tools to look at comparables in the marketplace to assess what the market value is of a residential property. But of course, whether the price you pay is market value or not is a completely different matter. If you want to buy a property at a price which is below market value, then there are 3 things that need to be in place. There are 3 criteria that have to exist for the vendor to accept an offer from you which is below market value. And if these 3 things are not in place, if all of these 3 things are not in place, then basically you can whistle. You ain't going to get the vendor to accept a price from you that's anything less than market value. We put out new videos every week, so make sure you've subscribed and hit the bell icon so you're notified as soon as we upload. So for the seller to accept a below market value offer from you, meaning a price that's below market value, 3 things must be in place. There needs to be 3 criteria. The first thing is there needs to be a deadline. There needs to be a date at some point in the future, in the near future, by which the seller has to sell that property. And that date exists because there's a clear, compelling reason or motivation as to why the seller needs to sell. This could be that they're emigrating abroad. This could be that it's a probate sale. This could be because someone's got a new job at the other part of the country, or they need to move house by a specific date to be in a catchment area for a particular school. There are all sorts of reasons, compelling reasons why people need to sell by a specific date. And the third criteria that needs to exist is that the seller needs to have the capacity to accept a below market value offer or price from you. What do I mean by that? If the seller only bought their flat a year ago and they've got it on a 95% mortgage, and it may be a brand new flat, then the chances are that property isn't worth anything more than what they originally paid for it. So in those sort of circumstances, particularly if the vendor has a high mortgage on it, they don't have the capacity to accept a below market price for that property. Ideally, what you're looking for is someone who has been in the property for 5-10 years plus, so they've built up a lot of equity in the property through rising prices. Or alternatively, they've bought that property with little debt or maybe no debt. One of the problems right now of getting below market value properties is, of course, the market is very heated, the market is very hot. And recent figures from Zoopla showed that the time taken to sell property in weeks is actually half what it was this time last year. So what does that mean? That means if vendors have got their property on the market, they're going to hold out for a full offer because they don't have to wait too long for that offer. Of course, it does take time to put a property on the market, and the trick is in these sort of scenarios is to get properties before they go on the market. And you do that by having a campaign to market direct to vendors. So you are in a one-to-one conversation with potential sellers of properties before they've actually formally decided to stick it on the market. The great thing about those sort of situations is that you're basically competing with no one. And you'll find that if there is a deadline by which they have to sell, if there is a clear motivation, and if they do have the capacity to accept a below market value offer, that in the same way that people will sell their car to sort of WeBuyAnyCar.com, they will sell their house to you. The best ways to get in direct contact with vendors are things like leaflet campaigns, where you leaflet your target postcode areas, you send letters directly to vendors, or perhaps use Facebook to target people through advertising directly to them. There are a whole load of other methods as well, but the one that I find most success with is either leaflets or letter writing. So that's basically how you would value a residential property. And of course, your aim as an investor is always to buy those properties at a below market value price. Now, as I said, that's just for residential properties. If you want me to do a video on valuing commercial properties, let me know in the comments below. Let me know your questions and I'll answer them in that next video. Don't go away without subscribing and hitting the bell icon. See you guys later.